Welcome to In Our Own Defense Podcast. We're your hosts, Attorney A.D. Winters, founder and managing attorney for the veteransdefender.com, and Dr. Dolores Tarver, licensed psychologist. For more information about our show, just go to Instagram at In Our Own Defense, go to Facebook at In Our Own Defense, or email us at Gmail at inourown@gmail.com. Our mission is to share truths and create dialogue that increases our listeners' awareness and a variety of concerns, to include fostering the development of holistic plans, which incorporates mental, physical, spiritual, financial, and intellectual wellness. Dr. Tarver?
The information provided during the In Our Own Defense podcast does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice and is not a substitute for the knowledge, skill, and judgment of qualified mental health or medical health care professionals. Instead, all information, content, and materials available on this site are for general informational purposes only.
Well, in this episode of In Our Own Defense podcast, we have the very talented, intelligent lawyer leader, Judge Carlos E. Moore, managing attorney for the Cochran Firm, Mississippi Delta branch, joining the show to discuss racism and the administration of justice. Dr. Tarver, how have you been?
I've been awesome. Thanks for asking. How about you?
Well, I've been great. I had a chance to get my workout in 10 miles this morning. And now I'm really excited about this show. You know, normally we have the talent that is very in your wheelhouse. This time we have the talent that's in my wheelhouse. I'm really excited to have Judge Moore here. But how have you been affected, Dr. Tarver, by the haphazard, imbalance, or incongruent administration of justice throughout the American experience? I've just watched it in time and time again. The third branch, as it were, of our government in the triumvirate or the balance of checks and balance of powers, we have the judiciary. And at the Supreme Court, as high as the Supreme Court, there was a case called the Dred Scott decision. In that case, the Supreme Court said there is no right of the black man that the white man has to respect. Now, the Supreme Court later came back and said that was the worst decision they ever made. It wasn't even a court decision. It was just but it was something that the court still reached from that kind of experience. And when you have the judiciary, that should be detached and neutral. It should be fair. It should be fair and balanced. That terrifies you, that you say, this is the place where I can get some fairness. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you about, Dr. Tarver. How have you seen the impacts of this in your field?
Well, of course, as a licensed mental health provider, one of the huge areas of concern for us is how people with mental health are treated disproportionately, particularly if they're Black. So, for example, you have a Black male on the autism spectrum, so Asperger's disorder, who is 18 years old. People call the police on him, say he's being a nuisance. He gets to get in front of a judge and 11 days with no bail, not able to interact with his mother. By the time she interacts with him, he's mute, can't even speak. But on the other hand, you have this 18-year-old male, well, he was 20 at the time, with this affluenza defense where he kills 4 people and serves no jail time, gets 10 years probation, and people just say, oh, because he had a lot of money and privilege, he didn't understand what he was doing. So here we have someone with a diagnosable mental health disorder who is sentenced to jail, no bail, and then finally gets off to a mental health facility. And someone else who is a white male, who this affluenza defense, because he has privilege, allows him to not be able to serve any time after killing 4 people. So that affects the mental health field significantly, because we see a lot of people with mental health disorders being put in jails when they should not be. They should be sent to recovery facilities, but instead they're serving time, much more higher rates for our Black and brown people than for their Caucasian counterparts.
And that's something that I've been struggling with. I've been a lawyer for quite a while, 15, 16, going to 16 years. And one of the struggles that I had with my own profession, this was my dream job. I wanted to be a lawyer since I was a kid. I wanted to be really the Carlos Moore of Grenada. When I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to save my people. And when I see some of the things that some of these judges do, some of these things that some of these judges allow in the courtroom, and this time period, I mean, I served as a prosecutor. I've done all of this stuff trying to be a good advocate of justice and helping with the administration of justice as an officer of the court. But I've just been struggling with the constant lack of accountability from police, or the over zealous prosecution of African Americans. I saw a guy be charged with 36 felonies from having a party for COVID-19. They ended up dropping most of them, but that offended me so much. So it was so important for me that we bring on somebody with the talent from the judiciary that has world-class talent, that we're lucky enough to buffer him in one of his many, he's got probably 3 shows to be on TV today, and we're lucky enough to get him in. So without further ado, let me do the privilege this time. I always ask you to
I will
introduce.
let you have it. This is your field. I'm outside of my weight class, so I'm just gonna no.
So without further ado, we have Carlos E. Moore, the managing partner of the Cochran Firm Mississippi Delta, located in Grenada, Mississippi. Has been a trial lawyer for 17 years, focusing on complex litigation involving civil rights, police brutality, catastrophic personal injury, wrongful death, and the list goes on at his firm. You can go ahead and check out the website on the Cochran Firm. He has handled hundreds of litigation matters, and he practices in courts, federal courts, state courts, federal court, administrative agencies, and he's in Mississippi and Louisiana. And then I mentioned he's with the Johnny Cochran law firm, the big Johnny Cochran. He's a White House Fellows, Regional Finalist 2012, Rising Star Mid-South Super Lawyers 2010 through 16, Outstanding Young Lawyers of Mississippi, Presidential Awards for Outstanding Service at the National Bar Association, served as the vice president, and he's going to be our future president at the, I'm claiming this in his name already, for the National Bar Association. He served as the vice president there from 2014 to 2016. He's an American Bar Foundation fellow from 2015 to president, $1 Million Advocates Forum 2011 to president, member at large, executive member of the National Association, the National Bar Association. That's the NBA from 2010, not that NBA, the NBA, National Bar Association 2010, 2014. And so without further ado, with all of that hoopla, help me welcome Judge Carlos Moore.
Thank you, Attorney Winters.
Welcome to the show, Judge. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Well, listen, Dr. Tarver and I are so excited, to have you on the show. We're going to get down to the brass tacks involved. You heard our opening. You heard my passion about it. You heard Dr. Tarver's, overarching concerns. The biggest thing for us is that in Grenada, Mississippi, our hometown, 150-year existence since 1870, since Pittsburgh and Tullahoma merged through a marriage, fabled marriage. You're the first African-American judge pro tem. And I know you've been a judge in Clarksdale for a while, Clarksdale, Mississippi for a while. But how does that feel? What did it feel like to your family? How did the community receive this historic moment?
It was very well received, specifically in the African-American community in Grenada. It was long overdue, and I'm blessed that I got the vote of confidence from the majority of the city council to give me an opportunity to serve the people. It's all about service and being fair and having the bench reflect the community. Grenada has long been, for nearly 20 years, majority African-American, and so it's high time that the judiciary reflect that, and I'm happy to have been selected. My family was thrilled, so they were there with me when I was sworn in for the historic occasion, and several friends. A good friend from law school swore me in, who's also a judge over in Greenwood, so that was a special moment for me.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. But what would make someone with that kind of world-class talent? You went to USA, University of Southern Alabama. You went to Florida State for law school. Why would you be in Mississippi?
Well, I wish it was an altruistic reason, but really I was chasing a skirt tail. My wife is from Grenada, and when we got married, she was finishing up nursing school at Delta State, and we wanted to go ahead and get married. So I visited Ole Miss. I left Florida State for a year, visited Ole Miss Law School for my last year. Then I transferred the credits back into Florida State and graduated there. I happened to get a job in Grenada, clerking for a small firm there. They offered me a job as an attorney, and I stayed there as an associate attorney for 4 years till I started my own law firm. But had I got a job in Florida, had I not fallen in love, I probably would have been in Florida. I probably would have been in Atlanta. But I fell in love, and that brought me back to Mississippi.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing.
That's a great reason, Judge. Great reason.
Chasing the skirts. Listen, there's this case that, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with, and it's buzz going around the internet. In the 12th Judicial District Court of Florida, there's the Lloyd and Lettner case, case, where a judge is refuting this viral meme that's circulating on Instagram and social media about an unfairly sentenced black defendant in Martin County robbery case, so harsher term than the white one. The allegation is that there was disparate treatment between the two young adults. You know, the white kid, Chase Lettner, was 19. He robbed 3 men and a drug deal, 2008 drug deal. Lamar Lloyd, the African-American, was 21 when he stuck up a Pizza Hut and gas station in 2009. Both men pleaded no contest, and Judge Bauer sentenced them on the exact same day. Leitner got the legging there, the white kid. He gets 2 years in the county jail, and then Lloyd got 26 years in prison. 26 years in prison, and most people are just concerned. How is that even possible for these two men to have the same plea? One's black, one's white, and one gets 26 years in prison, and the other one gets 2 years in the county jail, and undoubtedly probably got out of there before that. That's concerning and disconcerting to any layperson. Hell, it's disconcerting to me as a jurist for, you know, with 3 law degrees, and I don't understand that over the course right now. Can you help us through that, Judge?
Yeah, sometimes you just have to call a spade a spade. It's apparent in that instance, in all likelihood, that the lady justice was not blind, and that racism played a factor. What I didn't hear from the scenario was there were two counts of armed robbery. One perpetrator was white and one perpetrator was black. The only thing I'm missing before I can give my definite opinion is what happened to the people that were robbed. Did anyone get hurt worse than the other, or was it just armed robberies with no injuries?
No injuries, no injuries, and their points were the same. You know how when you do the sentencing guidelines, based on my research, their points were the same. Their points calculated the same. When you get the reference brought to you as a judge, these points matter, you know, and that's what's gonna go into the sentencing. So I struggled with it. I did so much pre-production work trying to research this because I'm just at a loss.
Yeah, now having that to factor into the equation, there's nothing, I'm led to believe nothing else factor into his decision but racism. And he saw someone look like him and gave, the judge saw someone look like him or her and gave them a break, a lesser sentence, and someone else that was estranged had no similarities to the judge. He threw the book at him. And that is what we see time and time again by judges as well as prosecutors and across America and Mississippi. So I can tell you countless stories just like that.
That's disturbing. Dr. Tarver?
Judge, I in the opening talked about mental health issues. So of course, Attorney Winters has given me the privilege to be able to address some mental health because I am absolutely outside of my weight class with the legal issues you all will be discussing throughout this show. So if you will give some time and attention, I want to address what I feel like are disparities in people that have mental health conditions who are arrested and when it comes to time for sentencing. Now, the National Alliance for Mental Illness created what they call Surviving Safely, which was supposed to be training designated to police officers, designated to courts to talk to people about how to address individuals that have mental health concerns. And I'm aware that in some states there are mental health courts where people do go when they have a mental health identified illness. But what are some conditions in which a person may be, that their mental health may be considered in terms of the judgment that they receive at the hands of the court?
In Mississippi, in criminal court, the defense attorney can file a motion for a mental evaluation to see if the defendant is mentally competent to stand trial. Some individuals that may be schizophrenic or have other mental disabilities or conditions, diagnoses, they may need to have an examination. It's up to their defense attorney to file a motion, or the judge could do so sua sponte, and have them seen usually by 2 psychiatrists or 2 psychologists, or a physician or a psychiatrist and a psychologist, get 2 opinions to determine if they are mentally competent to stand trial and to assist the lawyer in their trial. If they are not mentally competent to stand trial, you cannot go forward with the criminal proceedings, and the circuit judge, the criminal judge, will then direct or refer it to a chancery judge or equity judge to have them committed to see if they can be restored mentally to stand trial. And if they can't be restored, the doctors say that, the psychologists say that, and then they are never tried for that criminal offense. And then you have individuals that their family may notice that they need some help. They can have them committed involuntarily. You have to go through the court system, have them evaluated by physicians again, or psychologists, and they certify that they need some treatment, and put on the evidence, have a little hearing with the judge, and then the judge can involuntarily commit them for maybe 90 days or even more to get treatment, so that they're not a danger to themselves or others. But you have to allege that they are a danger to themselves or others before they can be involuntarily committed.
So that whole, as a follow-up, alleging that they're a danger to themselves or others, that seems to be, the difference seems to be that for maybe white defendants, they are much more likely to get that support from family, or have an attorney that advocates for that, or use that as a defense. Whereas for it seems like for Black defendants, they are less likely to be seen in that way. Whereas it's more often that they're questioned whether or not there is a true mental illness there. What has been your experience with that, if you've had any? Have you noticed any of those disparities yourself?
Yes, and municipal court, specifically in Clarksdale, there have been several instances, or a few instances, where people have come to me that were obviously in need of mental health treatment. And so sentencing them to jail because of the alleged crime they committed, I would send them to Region 9 or whatever appropriate region, mental health facility, or whatever community crisis center, or wherever they could get some help. Some of them just need anger management. Some of them actually need real mental treatment. And so we don't hold them in the penal system. Or the local jail, we try to make sure they get the treatment that they need, because it's clearly a sickness, it's an illness. It's kind of like the opioid crisis. And now it's just a public health crisis, but when it was crack, it was just the biggest crime, and we sent all these Blacks to jail. But when it happens in the white community, it's a public health crisis. When it happens in our community, it's a crime, and you need to go and not receive rehabilitation, but just be penalized, and that's unacceptable in my courtroom. If I see you have a problem where there's drugs or mental, we're going to try to deal with the problem and get you the help you need. And then if we resolve that, then we don't have to hold you responsible criminally a lot of the time.
Any winners?
No, I think that's admirable, Judge, that we have to get people in that, because that is exactly what I saw. I mean, I was a stupor when all of a sudden this was some public health crisis with the drug, and it was like a grave concern. And we're going to take a quick break here. We are on In Our Own Defense. We're discussing racism in the administration of justice. Dr. Tarver and I have our special guest, Judge Carlos Moore. We'll be right back after this brief message.